All right, everybody, welcome to the first session of the AI Boardroom. My name is Ken Ack Kum. I'm owner and founder of North Star Technology Group, and I am really excited to see everybody here today. Again, I'm Ken. I'm the owner and founder of North Star Technology Group. We are 25 years old this year. Amber, has it really been 25 years?
That's pretty wild to think about.
I don't feel like I should be that old, but alas.
It's exciting.
Anyway, we're lucky enough to make the Inc. 5000 list. We're the faces of cybersecurity for the Upper Midwest, and our entire reason for being is to protect and propel our businesses that we support. And today, joining me from North Star is Amber Smith. Many of you know who she is. She handles a lot of stuff for us. Sorry, I just got distracted. Amber's texting me. Amber Smith has been with us for how many years now, Amber?
Almost 14.
14 years. So she helps our customers manage a whole bunch of things, including procurement and billing and invoicing. And she's going to be moving a little bit into our marketing side. I want to introduce you to Noah Satkunam. If the face and the name is familiar, it's by intent. He's my son. Noah is one of our AI developers. He helps coordinate development. You were saying, how old is he? Well, Mark Zuckerberg built Facebook, younger than Noah is now. So highly capable. Noah, why don't you say hi?
How's it going, everybody?
And last, I just want to introduce Andronique. She is brand spanking new to our team. Andronique, how many days have you been with us?
Approximately 14 days and counting.
14. Yeah. So we've got somebody that's been here 14 years, somebody that's been here 14 days. You guys can talk amongst yourself about the pros and cons of both those numbers. But anyway, I am excited to kind of get into this. So hopefully my screen changed. So can you guys put a 1 in the chat? Right? If you are somewhat overwhelmed by how many AI tools there are, or how many people are talking about AI, or the things that you're seeing about AI, I'd like to see what do you guys think? Put a 1 in the chat if you feel that way. Okay, yeah, the ones are pouring in. Yeah, so the entire purpose, at least my goal of this, and again, we're just getting started, so we're going to be working out some bugs, and we're going to help through input from you guys refine our process as far as agendas and those kind of things. But the entire idea of why we created the boardroom is to kind of help you guys sort through that noise. I want to be able to help brainstorm return on investment, ROI driven ideas, right? And build up use cases, right? With the goal of all of us collectively leaving with maybe better questions or possibly a clear path. And again, this is kind of a recurring thing. And at the end of this, we'll be kind of talking about what we're going to be doing, during the next meeting. But I wanted to be able to get a community together of our customers and talk through some of these things, right? Because some people have ideas that others may find value in. But at the end of the day, I'm hoping that this will be useful and helpful for everybody. So I want to start a little bit about having you guys transform how you think about artificial intelligence in business, right? I want, at the end of the day, I want each and every one of you to become an AI-driven leader. And so building on that, right? We want to be able to kind of brainstorm use cases. We want to identify areas, right, where you have a lot of time friction, and then hopefully help map out practical AI to achieve real business outcomes. And of course, maybe you guys do that on your own. Maybe we help, right? But at the end of the day, the goal here is to identify specific ways in your individual organizations how you will be better with AI. And finally, I want to make sure that we see each and every one of you successfully plan and build out AI in your business if that's what you choose to do. Managing and monitoring that ROI and making sure that you're successful. So why are you guys here? Put a 1 in the chat if it's because you fear falling behind competitors. Put a 2 in the chat if you want to learn about doing AI the right way and avoiding costly mistakes. 3 in the chat if you are all about the numbers. I want to make sure that this is financially has a huge ROI and want to see the math around that. And then 4 for all of you skeptics out there. Put a 4 in the chat if you are sick of trying to verify what's real and what's not. And it's okay to answer more than 1. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, Dennis. Yeah, I hear you. Rob, yeah, there's a lot of misinformation, and we're going to be kind of talking through that stuff as well. Thanks for that. All right, so now I know that this is a lot of typing and a lot of work, right? But I kind of want to get a sense of what people are doing right now, because that'll kind of drive some of the conversations that we have. So can you guys tell me, have any of you, and you could say yes in the chat, actually integrated any AI tools into your daily operations? And that could be ChatGPT, Copilot, or any type of AI function of some of your line of business applications. Yes or no? Dennis, awesome. I want to hear more about what you guys are doing. Angie, I know you guys are doing a bunch of stuff. My accountants, my financial planners. Awesome. What is from your perspective? Tell me what is the biggest challenges that you guys are roadblocks that you're seeing. Rob, yeah, fair, yep. AI search tools. I'd like to hear what some of the biggest challenges and roadblocks that you are seeing to adopt AI in your environments. Is it awareness? Is it budget? Is it adoption? Ellen, thanks for that. The transcription software, that's great. Tech talent and trust. Sounds like a blog post idea right there, Amber. Dennis, Plod, yeah. So Plod's a great tool. I actually have one. Yeah, unfortunately, they do charge for the transcription, but I think it's a fantastic tool. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with Plod, I don't know if you can see this. Is this the Plod that you use, Dennis? You can talk to if you want. Yeah, that's great. Fireflies, yep. So a lot of people are using note taking. All right. Finally, I'd like to just get some input. Like, what are some of the specific business outcomes that you're hoping that AI will help you achieve? You can pop that in the chat or just talk. What is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to save money? Are you trying to augment human employees? What are some of the things? What are some of your business goals?
More efficient.
Be more efficient. Yeah, right. You want to be able to do more with less. Maybe you spend less time. Time friction elimination. Yeah, great. Steve, thank you. Yep. Dennis saving money, creating efficiencies. Helen. Yeah, you want to turn around billing time more faster, right? So those are really, really good workflow use cases. Anybody else have any other ideas? Angie, yeah, make it more accurate. Replacing lower level jobs. I think you said the silent part out loud, right? Is anybody John providing insights? Great. I want to talk a little bit about Angie's comment about replacing lower level jobs. Have you guys thought through this at all? Has this been a consideration? Older typists retiring, right? Input. Does anybody have any fear over AI replacing jobs? Hell yes, Rob. Yeah. Yeah, and again, we're ultimately, I'm just trying to get a kind of a lay of the land here during our first call, just to kind of see where people are sitting and kind of where their perspective is. Certainly, both the risk and the opportunity comes from staff augmentation, right? Yeah, you're right, Helen. We're already starting to see that, and it's only going to get faster. So, and I know, I'm calling this AI boardroom, but ultimately, what we're really here for is how to make our businesses better, right? Faster, more profitable, and like Steve says, more efficient. And so how do we do that? Well, of course, the first step is going to be understanding our business challenges, right? So what problems do we need solved? And Helen and Dennis and some of you guys have already, Angie, have already said a few ideas that you have, right, around billing and input and turning around invoices faster, doing some sort of workflow faster and more efficient, and less dependent on people. Obviously what problems you're trying to find, problems that need to be solved. Who would you hire, right, if money, retention, and recruitment weren't needed? Ultimately, I'm sure all of you guys have like the picture of what your ideal org chart would look like. If you had unlimited money, didn't need to worry about recruiting, didn't need to worry about retaining, what would that look like? And so this process, of course, to figure that out and help refine, what your desired outcome is really the AI growth and profit assessment process, right? And again, this is an exercise you can do on your own, or we can help you with. But ultimately, the end result of that is to come up with a plan to fix the problems that you guys have individually identified, and implement AI solutions to actually get real, true business outcomes. So I know there's a lot of prep time, right? But what are we really going to talk about today? We've got about 40 more minutes. I'm hoping that we can have, some Q&A time to kind of talk through some ideas, right? But I want to talk a little bit about AI prompting. I want to talk about a framework that we developed called the Drive framework, which is an idea to try to get better information out of your chat-based AI. I want to build a prompt together, do some real world examples of some of the workflow automation stuff that you guys are talking about. And then of course, how to help map out your own opportunities, right? Through an AI growth and profit assessment. Ultimately, I look at AI with two different lenses. I'm pleasantly surprised to hear how many of you are really talking about number two, right? Utilizing AI as an automation platform, right? Because that's really where the time and money savings are, right? So, and we'll be going through some of these examples in a bit, right? But some of the items, right, that Helen mentioned about using AI to automate billing or to get invoices sent out faster, utilizing AI to reduce the amount of time it takes to do proposals or respond to quotes, using AI to summarize a bunch of data and present some information, right? And so that's kind of that second part, right? Where again we're going to talk about in a second. The first part is really about how to use AI as a thought partner. How many of you guys use ChatGPT and ask it questions? Steve has, yeah. That's awesome. Are you guys getting good answers? Angie says yes. Becky, good, good. Bob says not always, right? Yep. Yeah, right. Depending on the prompts. So again, I want to. Some of you guys have graduated beyond prompting and using AI as a chat partnership, right? But today I'm going to talk a little bit about how we structure our prompts. And the reason why I use this as kind of a foundational conversation, right, is to help people expand what they can get out of AI, right? To be able to have ultimately that aha moment, right, where they're like, okay, AI really is able to be useful and help me under certain circumstances when it comes to thought partnership and leadership conversations. So ultimately, AI really is the big umbrella. I guess I like to say it's kind of like the everything bagel. It's the broad category that includes all machines really that act smart. I'm sure you guys are familiar with watching Netflix. And when you finish a show on Netflix and it's over, what happens? What does Netflix do? Suggest other shows, right? Yeah, it's like, okay, you like this one, maybe you'll like that one. Ultimately, it's the AI behind that. It's recognizing a pattern of the type of things that you like. Robots that vacuum your floor, same thing, right? It's intelligently mapping out your floor and being able to take care of this. Amber, what was it that we were talking about? Was it you and I? Was it a mower? What happened?
Yeah, I live near a school, and on my early morning walk, I noticed they had basically like a Roomba style lawnmower out mowing the lawn, and everything was going great. And then all of a sudden, because I even wanted to get like video to be like, hey, this is my first time seeing this, and then it wasn't moving anymore. It got snagged up on a tree root, so then it was stuck.
Yeah,
I'm like,
snagged on a tree.
do I help? Do I leave it alone? I just kept walking.
I've even been in
Yeah.
restaurants recently where the waitress, quote unquote, is a robot. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, in Arizona, there's a Korean place. I don't know if you've been to those underneath where they bring your food out with
Yep.
a
Yeah,
robot.
there's a little Indian place I think down in Chandler like that.
Yeah. Right. So you guys are seeing that AI is in our everyday life, right? Like even if it isn't traditional or what we think about AI, like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, it's out there. And Amber's example is, of course, that it's still not perfect, right? That ultimately, even in an artificial intelligence driven world, there still needs to be some human oversight. And so. Really, I want to talk a little bit about what AI is and what AI isn't. So ultimately, AI is typically in the sense of that what we're working with is a large language model, right? And again, it is a tool that mimics human-like patterns, right? Because it's essentially like that nerdy librarian that's read every single book. And so it's very good at saying, hey, I've seen those words before in that pattern, right? But it's not thinking or feeling, really it's calculating. So here's an example. Put the answer in the chat. So I'm going to make a statement. I have drank so much water today. I really need to go to the fill in the blank. Right, Angie? Yeah, right. So you guessed it, right? Congratulations, you understand what a large language model does when it comes to AI. Now, it's also good at tasks, right? Like analyzing documents, generating content. Of course, so generative AI like ChatGPT, can help create certain things for you. It can summarize things. It can create software coding. And of course, a lot of the stuff that we want to eventually talk about in this group is automating repetitive tasks. It's a multiplier, right? It's not something that is going to replace us. It amplifies us. Amber's example about how the AI-driven mower got stuck on a tree root, I think encapsulate that perfectly, right? There still needs to be some human oversight. It's a predictive engine, right? It's something that makes suggestions, and again, based on decision. So when I said I drink a lot of water and I really need to find the bathroom, you guys knew exactly what I was talking about. However, AI sometimes gets it wrong, and it does what we call hallucination, right? Where it doesn't know exactly what to say, so it makes something up. Here's an example. I love Mexican food. My favorite dish is fill in the blank. Donuts. That's a unexpected, but yeah, you got it. Right, like you don't know, right? It could be fajitas, burritos, tacos. If I'm like my son, it's margaritas, right? You don't know, right? So in that example, right, the large language model took information, that it recognizes, but it didn't know how to predict it, right? Because there's multiple ways it could predict this. So it's not self-aware, right? So it doesn't quite understand. It's definitely not perfect, as you could see, right, in that example, and certainly not a replacement for human judgment. So often the challenges that we have, right, is what I call garbage in, garbage out, right? So if your prompting is giving you good answers, that tells me, right, that you are providing the right input. If you are seeing that sometimes AI is not giving you what you want, one of the reasons could be the information that you're giving it. Often, some of these models, especially these free tools, right, maybe free ChatGPT, is not trained on your specific information, your business context, right, your sales process, your data. And so it provides maybe more generic answers and more information, right? So as we start to go down this path together, and we want to start implementing real world practical AI, right? We want to start shifting away from models that don't know about your business and start shifting to models that do. And with that, of course, comes certain challenges around privacy and security and some of these other things that we'll get to. And again, I talked about hallucinations. It starts to speculate, right? Which is not what we want. And so why AI doesn't always work, right? And that graphic over there is by intent. Sometimes we just ask the wrong things. Utilizing vague inputs, right? Lacking specifics, not providing the right role to the conversation. If I'm going to have an AI thought partnership conversation to solve a business problem, what I want the person or the AI persona to be a comedian, or do I want the persona to be something more specific, right, to the problem that I'm trying to solve? There is a difference, right? And we'll kind of talk through how this works. Often, AI is missing context, right? Because it doesn't pick up on those cues. So having a conversation with AI requires you to give the AI model context, right? So if we're talking about, maybe we have a problem with employee retention, right? That we want to get some ideas on how to kind of to stop people leaving prematurely. Context may be around the fact that we don't have a solid employee onboard program, or we don't have a good training system, right, for new people to start. They're just kind of left by themselves, right? So creating context. And so what is an alternative to that, right? So we want to look at this strategically. Again, AI isn't magic, right? It takes what you feed it and produces the output. So strategic prompting, right, requires clarity, context, and purpose. And we developed a very simple acronym called DRIVE that allows people to move from a generic request, right, into better business outcome answers. So what is DRIVE? Essentially, this is an easy way to remember how to produce more specific and meaningful prompts. So when I start my conversation with ChatGPT or Copilot or any of these other tools, right, I try to prompt based on this framework. And so the letter D stands for defining the problem, right, or what is the question. And so as I go through this, I want you guys to be thinking about a real world business problem that you've been struggling with. Because I want to use it as a couple of examples, right, of how this works. So be thinking about this. But the D is to define the problem or the question. Why is employee churn not going up, right? The role that AI should play should be the type of person that you would ask this to. Again, if I'm going to write a set of jokes, right, for a stand-up comedy act, I'm not going to assign the role as a accountant, right? If I want to get some information about my financial reports, I'm not going to assign the role as a plumber. So the R stands for what type of persona, what type of job should AI mimic when answering that question? The I is something that that not a lot of people do, right? But it's a very, very powerful prompting technique. So what I tell AI is to interview me up to 3 questions, one at a time, to gain clarity in what I'm trying to solve, right? And by adding that to your prompt, AI will, of course, match pattern of history of this type of conversation, and then it'll ask you some questions, right? And some of these are really, really thought-provoking, and we'll go through this exercise in a bit, right? But it actually turns the table and allows AI to ask me some questions to make sure that it understands what it is that I'm trying to do. The V stands for voice or tone of output. How many of you here put a 1 in the chat if you ever watched the original Biggest Loser, the weight loss show? Yeah. Do you guys remember who the trainers were? One of the trainers was very tough, just like in your face, suck it up type attitude, right? Does anybody remember that trainer's name? Julian Michaels. You got it, right? And the other trainer, right? He was the compassionate one, right? His training style was, how do I get the most out of this weight loss journey, not by being the hard truth trainer, right? But by being the supportive one. What is it in your past, right, that's affecting you, that allows you to not be able to eat the right things or work out, right? What was his name? Does anybody remember that trainer's name? I know Bob does. He has to. Maybe not. Jack LaLanne, there's a flash in the past. But this guy is Bob Harper. He's the other trainer, right? So he was the softie, right? The point I'm making is the voice or the tone of output. You can actually tell AI during prompting what type of tone of voice to use. So if you are a Jillian Michaels, you respond really, really well, right, to people giving you hard truth, giving it to you straight, no excuses type responses. You can tell AI, that's what I want. Give it to me straight. I want the hard truth. I want it formal. I want it structured, right? If, however, the thing that you're trying to find does not use that tone well, maybe it's around, customer retention or reducing employee churn. Maybe you want a tone of voice that's more inspiring, supportive, right? Tell AI that. You can actually tell AI the type of tone of voice. So if I'm doing trying to build up a 12-month sales and marketing plan, right? The tone of voice, I don't want to be funny, right, or entertaining. However, if I'm doing a presentation, right, on some complex material, maybe I want that, right? That's the voice. And finally, the E, or the end game, is exactly what you want that output to produce. I use the example of a 12-month sales and marketing plan, right? But eventually you need to tell it exactly what you want, right? So I hope you could see, right, like being able to be as specific as possible by using kind of a structured framework is going to give you better answers. And we're going to run through this here in a second. But I want you guys to think through it, and I want you to post, if you please can, some business problems or questions that you are struggling with right now in your organization. I'm using this slide as kind of some examples, like how do we predict customer churn before it happens and intervene proactively? What blind spots exist in our competitive intelligence that AI could help illuminate? What are inefficiencies in sales that AI could help us with? How might we use AI to personalize employee development? What strategic decisions could be enhanced by using AI scenario planning? I want people to tax research, but please put some ideas in there. I want to get some ideas that we can test this theory of the drive. I'm not letting you guys off the hook. I know you guys have business problems. We wouldn't be on this call if you didn't. Some of the things that I've used, and I use AI thought, I call again thought partnership, right? HR problems, great. We'll probably tackle that one. How do we ensure that clients get vendor categorization right every single time? That's a really good specific one. Can AI predict our Medicaid rates based on current information? So you guys, I know that you have business issues, right? And so some of these things that you're posting here are perfect use cases, right, where you can use AI chat. And again, I'll show you that in a bit. We'll do a couple of these. So I'm going to share a screen. Can you guys put in the chat what AI chat tools that you guys are using, just so I get a sense of what people are using. Chat GPT, Perplexity, great. Is anybody using Claude? Dennis, great idea. Copilot. All right, awesome. Yeah. So again, we talked about how there's two different ways that we can leverage AI in our environments. This is the chat stuff, right? This is the thought leadership, the thought partnership part of that, where you have problems that your organization or you are facing that you want to get some insight or input or ideas about. The other area, of course, is some of those more, I think, bigger ROI driven things that are around automation, time friction reduction, those kind of things, right? And you can use all of these tools, right, to accomplish that. Some, of course, is more complicated than others. Some are more risky than others, right? But it seems like most people are kind of chat GPTs up there. That's why I want to kind of start with this one. But okay, so let's start with a simple one here. We want to let's see. We are seeing high employee attrition lately and need to fix it. Put in the chat what kind of role, who would we ask if this was a human being to human being? Who would we want to talk to about this problem? Any thoughts, any ideas? What is the job that we want AI to take on for this? Human resources, yeah. We'll just say human resource expert. We'll just start with that one, and I'll show you another way to do this where it'll help prompt out some of this stuff. On the interview, I'm going to say, interview me up to 3 questions, one at a time, to gain clarity. The voice, we're going to say, let's make this formal yet inspiring. The end game is going to be a 90-day plan to help reduce employee attrition and increase job satisfaction. All right, let's see what it says. All right, question number 1. What are the most common reasons employees are giving either in exit interviews, informal conversations, or feedback? And it says you can list themes: pay, management style, lack of growth. I'm going to say high workload, toxic culture. All right, gives us an important starting point: high workload, toxic culture. Second question: have there been any recent changes in leadership, team structure, workload expectations, or performance metrics? I'm going to say we've doubled our customers in 6 months. And have not updated employee metrics. I don't know if you guys notice too, ChatGPT is always very positive, right? That's incredibly helpful and revealing. It's always a positive thing, right? All right, so doubling your customer base in 6 months without recalibrating workload or support often leads to burnout, resentment, and cultural breakdown. You're likely seeing the strain, both attrition and toxic. Final question. What current support systems or feedback mechanisms do employees have? You're like, we don't meet with employees. They are on their own, just to drive home this point. All right, final piece makes the picture crystal clear. We're scaling customer impact. We're not experiencing leadership present. So of course, it's going to start to build out this plan, right? Phase 1, stabilize the environment, reconnect. Phase 2, and I don't need to read through this, right? But you guys kind of get the idea, right? That it starts to create a plan for you. Put a 1 in the chat if even if the answer is good, it's not always perfect, right? So how many of you guys, put a 1 in the chat, ask AI to refine your answer? And what do you say? How do you ask that? We call this iterative chat, right? So when the first time that you ask, yeah, it is a garbage in, garbage out, right? Yeah. So in this case, right, we probably gave it some good information, Rob, right? Because now it understands that. But sometimes, you know, the output that we get, even if we feel like the input is good, is not quite exactly what we want, right? You know, so at this point, we could ask it to completely change what it's given me. You know, I mean, like instead, let's build a leadership improvement program for managers to help better onboard employees and provide critical feedback. Of course, and it just creates kind of the response that you would expect. And again, ultimately, what we're trying to do is show the power of positive and specific prompts. Now I want to kind of convert this over to some automation around that, right? So each step, just like when you went to school, right? You started with having to do math formulas, math homework, right? The long way, and then the teacher would always come up with what they call a shortcut, right? So we built an AI assistant, right, to drive that essentially does the same thing. It walks you through. So we're going to do this again with somebody else's problem this time. Let me use Angie's. Angie, where is yours? How do we ensure clients get vendor categorization right? And I feel, Angie, that's directed towards me personally. I'm going to try not to take offense to that. But all right, I'm going to say our accounting customers don't always get the right category for vendor expenses, which often leads to inaccurate financial reporting. What role would you like me to play in solving this? Angie, I want you to answer that specifically. Who should I have answer that? Oh, actually, I got your problem wrong.
Yeah, so the person answering it should be the an owner of a bookkeeping firm. Or an accounting manager.
Firm owner, accounting manager. I see your LOL there, Helen. All right, so Angie, I want you to help me answer these questions. Where do the vendor expense categories typically go wrong? Is it due to human error, missing context, software, or naming inconsistency?
It's human error and naming inconsistencies.
And you can see I don't even need to spell it right because I didn't at all. 2, what tools or systems are currently used for categorizing expenses? QuickBooks, Xero,
So,
Excel.
Yeah, we're using QuickBooks and we're using rules. We're using rules in QuickBooks to like tag the vendor name so that it gets applied to that particular coding.
How frequently are these misclassifications identified during monthly reviews, tax prep audits, or when clients raise concerns?
Yes, during monthly reviews, when clients raise concerns. More often during quarterly reviews by internal team.
All right. All right, so we're dealing with frequent miscategorization, primarily due to human errors. You guys use QuickBooks rules, but despite these errors are still slipping through. What is the what voice do you want me to have the output, and what is the output that you want? What would be valuable to you, Angie?
The voice is that, I guess, bookkeeping 1.0 for beginners. I want my clients to be able to fully grasp basics, very basics of accounting. So that's usually one of the problems, is that people are intimidated by accounting language.
Okay. And your end game, what would you like to see produced?
Less errors from the first pass.
Okay, I'm going to do solution guide to reduce first pass errors. Okay, so you tell me if this is valuable at ChatGPT output, right? This is our first go at this, no iterative. So obviously standardizing vendor names. Inconsistent naming leads to rule failures. Improve rule reliability in QuickBooks. Rules break when vendor names vary slightly. Is that true?
Absolutely. Think of AT&T and how many ways you can write AT&T.
Right. Introduce categorization training, micro guides, cheat sheets, right, is an idea. Obviously, a second pair review filter. So reviewing a review flag maybe within the system. This one talks about using junior staff to be able to mark this. And then, of course, leveraging AI. AI would tell you to use AI, right, to recognize pattern detections. And then it gives you a checklist, right? And again, this is kind of a short version, but I hope you guys get the idea, right? So being able to provide a more specific and structured prompt will give you better answers on the outside. Now, what I usually do from here, of course, is I end up experimenting with many different versions of it. I'll be like, okay, that's cool. Now rewrite this, in a 30-day plan, or rewrite this in a 90-day plan, or produce a checklist that I can give my team that's branded with our company information, or create a standard operating procedure from this that I could publish, right? So the goal, of course, is to be able to get as much out of this chat conversation as possible. what, like, if I was going to say, Angie, on this, obviously it's very simple. I could say, I need more detail, or give me more specifics on this stuff. But what would be your assessment of how ChatGPT answered your question? Was this valuable? I mean, I know you're an expert in this and you probably already asked these questions, but what would you say?
It's partially valuable. I think I have a bigger issue with, it comes from the bank feeds, and I'm not in control of the data coming in from the bank feed. So it is partially, I mean, audit and simplify 10 existing QB rules. That means that my team has to have 10 rules set up in there. So maybe it's just like at the end of each month, set up 10 new QB rules and run them, like that. So that is helpful.
Yeah. And I use this every single day, right? Because there's always some sort of business problem that I'm trying to work through. And again, over time, you start to know like what iterative things, like what follow-up conversations that you have. So if the output isn't what you want, you can ask it to completely rebuild it. Anyway, so hopefully, again, the idea is to get a baseline comfortability where you're using AI in a thought partnership perspective to kind of see how the pieces work together. Let's see. Taking this a little bit further, right? So building upon that, and again, I built this demo, and I'm working with a couple of you guys to do some stuff around this. We're also working with a few people on some use case things, right? But taking the Drive framework and building it out into an automation for a job function, right, is kind of the next step in this, right? So once you're comfortable having these thought partnership conversations, the next step is to put some automation. So I built out this. I named it our company, but it's a fictitious set of data, right? So I trained, in this case, ChatGPT, right? We're doing this within Microsoft Copilot and actually adding a Microsoft Teams employee, right, to customers' tenants to be able to do some more of this AI digital employee function. So here's one just for human resources. So we train this on a bunch of fictitious HR handbooks, policies, benefits, and all kinds of stuff, right? So I could say, how much PTO do I get, right? And again, this is an example of how we can use and train our AI digital employees for specific customer data, right? So this is something that if this was a real business, I would not put into the public ChatGPT, right? We're working with using Microsoft environment for a lot of this stuff. But it allows employees to be able to have access to answer some of these questions, right? So if I had a full-time human resource specialist, right, where their job is just to answer questions about from my employees, right, around HR, the average 100 employee customer, right, and you're like, well, I'm not 100 employees, but it scales down and up, typically has on average 2 questions per employee per month on HR related functions. And if you do the math on the fully burdened rate of an HR specialist and the amount of time they spend, you're looking at easily savings in time of $1,000 a month or more because of just the pure math of it. And that's just one employee or one workflow. If you can extrapolate that to all areas of your business, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here to build some of that stuff out and automate some of those things. And again, it's not talking about necessarily replacing, although again, for some use cases, it may make sense. It's really about augmenting your existing people, getting them more leverage and to be able to do more in their day. So again, like I said before, it's really not about the AI, right? It's ultimately about the business results, right? Whether you are using AI as a thought partner or you're using AI to automate certain tasks, and you guys have given us some great examples. It starts right with the business challenge. What is the problem that you need solved? What is the desired outcome that you see with that? Helen brought up being able to bill faster, right? There's some Medicaid, Medicare questions about, trying to decipher some of that, right? Where you need some intelligence. But ultimately, the first step, right, is to really understand where your growth and your profit opportunity is. The second step, once you kind of figure that out, right, which is an individual organization by individual organization exercise, the next step, of course, is to build some strategy and planning around that, right? Being able to identify somebody within your organization that's responsible for this. And it's not necessarily a technical problem, right? These are business problems, just like cybersecurity is not an IT problem, it's a business problem. And so being able to identify somebody within that organization, right, that's ultimately responsible for driving the strategy planning, the automation and tool selection, and ROI analysis for those solutions. And then obviously you want to be able to have them built out within your organization. And you want to use AI as your accelerator, right? Not necessarily the destination. So how does the AI growth and profit assessment work? This is something that you guys can do yourself. This is something that we can help you with. First, of course, we want to identify where the time and dollar savings is. And that's really identifying and thinking through very, very comprehensive process of identifying where friction is in your businesses. Where do you spend time that you don't think you should be spending time? That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is if I looked at my org chart and I had unlimited time, budget, and no need for retention or recruitment, what would my org chart look like? What positions would I have and what would they do? Second is mapping those jobs to workflows, right, on a specific department by department basis. And then, of course, it's building out those automations. And you guys have already listed some great examples of some of the stuff that you guys want to do, right? That's a really, really, really good first start. Some of it is going to be around utilizing AI capabilities within your existing software you have, whether that's Microsoft or Copilot, or whether that's some of your line of business applications that have some AI. And then, of course, from there, you want to build out a roadmap, a blueprint, and an implementation to be able to hit and accomplish those things. Some of the examples of stuff that we've uncovered, I know we're running late. I'm going to rush here to get this, but I want to talk through. These are real world examples of customers that we've ran an AI growth and profit assessment against. This is a construction company. Their current process is they use a tool called ProEst and Smartsheets for doing their job costs and estimations. We identified an AI use case, right, to be able to streamline that automation to create instant proposals and estimates, saving anywhere from 4 to 6 hours per proposal. They do about 20 proposals a month. That's a $6,000 a month cost savings. Plus, they reduce their errors. Same customer. Another workflow that we identified is build out an AI assistant for their field staff. And so they have back office employees, and then they have a lot of contractors that go on site to do their jobs. And so we are working with them to develop a text-based AI assistant that's accessible via text message or mobile app to allow them to automate the process of scheduling their time entry reporting, right, for the jobs to be able to do bills, and then, of course, voice to text updates. So this one, we're seeing anywhere of 30 plus minutes saved daily per field worker, over 1,000 of reclaimed work hours, which is a huge productivity hit for the size of their company. And again, you guys can do all this on your own, but if you guys want some help, I'd love to be able to talk to you guys more about performing, again, this AI growth and profit assessment to unlock all of these opportunities. And I'm doing this thing where I'm calling it 30,000 in 30 days, right? Our goal is to unlock up to $30,000 of time savings and profit boosting within the first 30 days of identifying this stuff. So anyway, I appreciate all your time. Schedule some time. Andronique might be reaching out to you guys, but I wanted to talk about what we're going to talk about next time. And again, I am open to any suggestions on agenda topics. And again, I would love to be able to have this more collaborative. I think you guys are doing a great job posting in the chats. I want to talk through a lot of these things with you. But next time, which will be in 2 weeks, I want to talk about readiness, right? So you can't just unleash AI. We talked about AI chat, which is great, right? But we're talking about not necessarily putting specific customer information. We're not uploading financial reports. We're not uploading, personal information or private business confidential information into your AI chats. But maybe you want to do that, right? Because it's going to give you better answers. And if that's the case, and then of course, anything we want to do with some of these automations that I mentioned, we want to make sure that you're ready and that your data is ready. So we're going to talk about data readiness. We're going to talk about policy and governance. I'm guessing many of you might not even have AI usage policies in place yet. We're going to talk about how you guys as leaders have a really, really important role in developing and communicating your strategy. And then, of course, we want to make sure that your software stack, your AI, your technology, your cybersecurity, of course, is in tune and in line, right, to protect that information. And then make sure we have a good operational clarity plan moving forward. But anyway, that's all I have. I appreciate everyone's time. If anybody has any questions at all, we can talk through them now. But let me know. I know that a bunch of people hopped off. This is being recorded, and we will have a place to get access to that. I'm still working through the details on that, so we'll make sure we put that out there. But all right, guys, appreciate it. Thank you so much.